Hi everyone, I'm Brandy, an OpenSciEd teacher and professional learning facilitator. Welcome to OpenSciEd Chemistry, Unit 4, Lesson 7. In this lesson, we discuss why it's important to learn from people who are directly affected by the oyster die-offs. We'll read about different interested parties and brainstorm additional criteria and constraints. Then we'll complete the midpoint acid behavior assessment, investigating how pH changes as ion concentration changes. Let's get started. Let's take a look at how we got here. During Lesson 6, we figured out strong acids and strong bases dissociate completely because the products are more stable than the reactants, while weak acids and weak bases only partially dissociate and undergo reversible reactions with water, resulting in less extreme pHs. In this lesson, we're wondering, how can we use what we've learned to help protect oysters? Here's the lesson at a glance. This putting the pieces together lesson takes place over 2 days. The teacher's guide says about 45 minutes of material preparation is required to prep materials for the lab portion of the assessment. Your students won't need access to devices during this lesson. There are 3 big parts of this lesson. Let's see what's happening in each. In the first loop, we discuss the role of interested parties, and then we learn more about them through readings and a jigsaw activity. Then we brainstorm criteria and constraints and new solutions through a whole class discussion. We figure out that many groups of people are impacted by what happens to the oysters, and that interested parties have important knowledge that can help us plan effective engineering design solutions. We also figure out criteria and constraints guide these engineering design solutions, and that each interested party has specific needs that require targeted criteria and constraints. We figured out so many ways to restore the oysters to help food access issues with the Swinomish tribal community. We decided to take stock of what we figured out. So in the second loop, we revisit the driving question board to take stock of what we figured out so far in this unit, and what do we still wonder? In the third loop, we prepare for the assessment to show what we have figured out in this unit. Then we complete the midpoint assessment individually and kind of as a group for the lab portion. Through the assessment, we solidify the key idea: adding a product ion to a reversible reaction causes the reaction to move in the reverse direction. We saw by adding a certain type of ion to an acidic solution causes it to become more neutral. So we started to consider whether this phenomena could be applied to helping oysters and the people who depend on them. We figured out that interested parties have important knowledge that can help us plan effective engineering design solutions. Each interested party has specific needs that require targeted criteria and constraints that guide our engineering design solutions. And now for a few key moments. In Part 3, we will use the jigsaw reading strategy to learn about 4 interested parties: restaurant personnel, poultry farmers, oyster farmers, and Northwest Indian fisheries. Based on the readings, the students will identify different criteria and constraints. Then they will come together in their mixed groups, and the students will have an opportunity to discuss the challenges or trade-offs and prioritizing the needs of multiple interested priorities. Just a quick tip, I print these readings on 4 different colors of paper, so it's easy for me and the students to see when they are in their expert group, where they have all the same colored paper, and when they're in their home group, when there's one of each of the 4 colors of paper. In Part 4, you'll record the student consensus ideas on a poster titled Class Consensus Criteria and Constraints. Students should link the criteria and constraints they name to specific considerations from the vignettes or their science ideas they've figured out. Some ideas for designing solutions to the oyster die-off problem could include carbon cycling, social and economic systems that are impacted by the oysters, and the process of ocean acidification. All of this is building toward defining criteria and constraints that consider the needs of all the interested parties in the communities in order to design a solution that supports the stability of the complex system of oyster production. Part 6 gives us a moment to pause and take stock of what we've already figured out as we approach the close of the first lesson set with the overarching question: what large and small-scale processes make water more or less acidic? At this point, students may have new questions that they add to the driving question board, including: what can we do to help reverse ocean acidification? How can we reverse ocean acidification? Who gets to decide what criteria we use to evaluate an engineering solution? Questions like these will help us move forward with our investigations as we enter the second lesson set. In Part 8, we've reached the midpoint transfer task, Acid Behavior Assessment, which is a chance for students to show what they've figured out so far in this unit. This assessment asks students to take pH measurements of solutions and make predictions about the solutions. In order to take the measurements, the students can work in small groups to test the pH of each solution. You could strategically pre-assign the groups and begin the assessment in those groups so that the students could take the initial pH measurements. Once all the students in the group reach question 5, the group can reconvene to add the sodium citrate and measure the pH again. Due to these two lab components, you'll want to plan ahead for how you will manage the chemicals and the materials involved. I'll share a few tips on how I facilitated this later on. So where do we go from here? We learned about who is affected by the oyster die-offs, and we completed the acid behavior assessment. So now we wonder, how can we figure out how much of a substance we need to neutralize an acid? Now for a few tips and tricks. For the acid behavior assessment in Part 8, you'll be setting up multiple stations around the room for the students to access during the transfer task. Look for the teacher reference preparing assessment solutions for guidance. Label, label, label. There's going to be a lot of movement, so you want to minimize the risk. I labeled the glass stir rods and put them next to the beakers and instructed my students to use a glass stir rod to dip into the solution and then onto the pH papers. I had paper towels and small waste bins at each station to encourage lab cleanup as the students were working. I also had an electronic scale, scupula, and weigh boats at every station. For the results from this investigation, your students might be surprised. Coming out of Lesson 6, students have an understanding that adding a common ion to a reversible reaction can shift the reaction back toward the formation of reactants. With this, the students expect the citrate ions to cause an increase in the pH of the citric acid solution. But since citrate is not part of the hydrochloric solution, they expect the pH to stay the same. However, citrate causes a significant and unexpected swing in the hydrochloric solution as well. There's some rich sense-making here that's important to lean into. We want the students to recognize that sodium citrate introduces new ions to the hydrochloric solution, and that both the hydrochloric dissociation reaction and the citric acid dissociation reaction are present. Because citric acid is a reversible reaction, the citrate takes up much of the excess hydrogen ions and produced from the hydrochloric, causing an increase in the pH. If your students struggle with this prompt, don't be afraid to add in some collaboration to the task. Learning through assessment can be really powerful. Students might do some collaborative whiteboarding, or you might even consider circling up after the task to make sense of the discrepant results after they finish. For question 6, the students are asked to develop a particle-level model to explain the results from investigation 2, but the task handout just provides a bunch of blank space. To support my students, I gave them a graphic organizer of 8 boxes labeled with the chemical components and during or after. I've also seen teachers make a simple model scaffold showing 2 beakers with zoom-ins before and addition of sodium citrate, and then 2 beakers with zoom-ins after the addition of sodium citrate. Regardless of what you do here, supporting your students in modeling definitely encourage them to make use of their resources for this prompt. The students are transferring lots of ideas that they've developed across lessons 4 through 6. So it's really important that they have access to this lesson 4 modeling hydrogen ion concentration handout when they're making sense of their results. If you're like me, you'll probably have a bunch of students that are absent on assessment day. My solution to this, rather than leaving all of the materials out for a week or more, was to make this colored handout that has the color-coded pH indicator scale across the top, and then rectangles that represent the colors the students should have achieved during this wet lab. The technique still allows the students to practice the color matching and pH number interpretation skill without all of the lab materials and the extra time required to complete the lab components. For the personal glossary, you'll co-construct with your students the meanings of interested party. You'll also encounter criteria and constraints. For poster management, you'll need the driving question board that you created in Lesson 1. You'll be making the interested parties poster in Part 2 and a criteria and constraints poster in Part 4. I suggest you hang on to those because they will be useful later in Lesson 12 when the students start developing their design solutions. That's Lesson 7. Up next in Lesson 8, we're going to look at the other things besides salts that we might add to the ocean water to help raise the pH and protect oysters. In this lesson, we'll develop ideas about neutralization and use the context as a lever to start building our stoichiometry skills. Good luck and have fun.